put this underneath your drink.
Okay.
When you set it down, it's more of a cushion. And one more thing I'm going to change because it's going to bother me. I know it. Trash can.
Picky.
It's all about, you'd be surprised when people watch the video how their eyes just kind of wander.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little bit better. All right, so. Oh, I gotta get your head in. Okay, opening of the show. You talking. And then camera 2 is going to be the foot. Make sure you stay whatever you're going to talk about on that black square or the black thing there. All right. A lot of stuff going on. You ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. As my wife says, hold on to your potatoes. Here we go.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the best podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, talking terminology, we're going to talk about deep digital Flexor tendon and also the Coffin bone. Also, if you are watching this on the YouTube video, Mike has brought in some cross-sections of a horse's leg and it's going to talk about the different variations thereof and also different phases of a horse's stride. All this and much, much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over on my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. So, what have you been up to? Anything lately? You went and got a physical. Everything good over there? Doctor says...
They said I was upright, didn't fall over,
Your head's on straight?
Well, it's on.
Just pointing in the different direction that is most likely to stay on, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's in a direction.
So what did he say about like your blood pressure or anything? Everything good?
Everything's cool. Everything's cool.
So right now, as of this date, you cannot say that you have any stress in your life. If your blood pressure isn't high, because I'd be pulling my hair out with the stuff that you have to go through with these horses. But that's good. I want a farrier that's nice and calm and has all his pieces together and collective. I don't want some guy who's worried about his heart rate and his blood pressure and all that stuff, working on my horse at the same time.
Well, if you get where you just don't care, which that's not true, you know better than that.
Yes, I know.
But yeah, there is some stress involved for sure. And in the last little while, I've been getting sent more x-rays on laminitic horses, and that's part of why we're talking about some of the stuff we're talking about on this podcast.
Now, if you've got, if you go to YouTube for every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well. You can see me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me. We got a whole brand new setup of different lights and stuff. We also added a couple more cameras, and Mike has got some cross section. These are actual cross sections that we're going to get into later of a horse's leg. Is this correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll dive into that here. So now's a great time to go over to the YouTube channel and watch the whole entire podcast video in real time as we're talking about it here on the air. Now, we have Diego. All right.
You do have Diego.
We have a couple horses here on the property. My wife rides dressage. I don't ride. I fix all the broken stuff that the horses kick or get tangled up in or something like that. And I feed the horses. I don't clean the poop. That's one thing I won't do. But, believe it or not, my wife has been around horses since she was 11 years old. She loves going out there. And that's her therapy, is cleaning the stalls and getting the stalls all nice and ready for the horse and everything like that. It's very therapeutic for her. She's like, I could do that all day long. I wish someone would pay me the money that I do at my regular job to do that, and I would do it all day long.
Yes. Yeah, I can kind of understand that. It's cheap therapy after you pay for the horse and the truck and the trailer and the horse show.
And the boarding and
then you get to that farrier. And
you get stressed out. No, you don't get stressed out. But my wife, we have Diego off the property because during the winter months here in North Carolina, we have it's been mild this year, but normally we get like a little bit of snow, a lot of frozen rain, and then just regular rain. And our arena is an uncovered arena, so sometimes it gets a little sloppy down there, and sometimes it's not the best condition at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning when my wife rides. It's either too cold, or it's too wet, or it's too rainy, or something like that. So Diego is off the property. Now, with Diego being off the property, we rely on the people that are boarding him, and it's a full facility. How many horses do they have over at the place that she has? 30 horses?
Good chance it's close to that.
Yeah, and so she worries about Diego falling between the cracks and being fed. She said the last couple of weeks that she's been going out there, he seems a little skinny now, but he has been working 3 times a week really, really hard. I mean, his level of training has bumped up a little bit.
Right.
So you were out there the other day and you were shoeing Diego. Did you notice if he was getting a little skinny? Amy said, my wife says that he's getting a little ribby is the way she pronounced it.
He's dropped a couple pounds. It's nothing I'm going to get highly concerned about. And, you know, his age.
He's only 4.
Right. And,
but you notice he's a little, what my wife calls ribby.
yeah, but he's still at an age he can go through some of those weird teenage growth spells too. And I'm not sure he hadn't shot up a little bit.
So my wife says to put on more weight. She says she doesn't want to increase his food intake, like the grains, the pellet stuff that we give him, you know, once in the morning, once at night. She said she'd rather do it with forage. Is that the proper way if you want to put weight on your horse to do it through forage, or would you recommend like us, like a bodybuilder like myself,
a bodybuilder like yourself,
right? Eating like protein whey or something like that to put on a little bit of mass. Do you recommend doing the?
Well, Travis, I think you ought to go out and eat forage.
I should,
you know, no, I think probably using your forage is probably a good idea.
Is it easy? I'm assuming that it would be easier to maintain, like if you give Diego a couple flakes of hay in the morning, couple flakes at night, maybe one more at night. You're not going to go out there in a week's time and all of a sudden he's a big fat chunko munko. You know, you could probably maintain his increase of weight using forage.
Yes, you could. And actually right now, coming into this time of the year with him coming home to your paddocks, it may not be a bad thing that he dropped a little weight.
Really?
Really? Yes.
Why would you recommend that? Because he's coming home at the end of this month.
Right.
So why would you recommend that he drop a little weight before he comes home?
What's his turnout look like where he is? And what does your turnout look like as far as grass growth, spring grass is coming in?
We don't really have a whole lot of grass due to the oak trees on half side of the pastures.
But just in the change of the pastures, and I don't know what grazing he's got over there, but if he's going out in your front pasture, you do have some grazing.
I do a little bit.
It's going to come in richer than you think and put weight on it faster than you think.
So it's a good idea. Yeah, I guess that's a good idea, Mike.
And we don't want to get into any laminitis because a lot of that's popping up right now.
All right, yeah. So maybe that's a good idea that he's a little skinny or a little thin.
He's not unhealthy. You know, your wife wouldn't fuss at you for being that way. She'd like it. But your horse, his horse is supposed to be,
right.
Little roly-poly.
All right, guys, we got a big show to get into, lots to talk about, and we also have these cross-sections of actual horse legs that look like they've been petrified or something.
They're freeze-dried.
They're freeze-dried. Okay, so that's what they are. And so check this video out over on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe as well. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. As he snorts right into the microphone.
Sorry. Bad timing, bad play.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the official farrier of the 2018 World Equestrian Games. And make sure if you have a question that you'd like to ask Mike Stine at any time, we'll read it here on the air. The way you do that is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact us. Make sure you put a return address in there as well. We have some magnets, some stickers, some coasters, some buttons. We have drink coasters now. with the Mike Stine Equine Dynamics logo on it. Buttons, magnets, stickers, all that stuff.
That's right.
And just fill out the little form there, put a return address, ask Mike a question, or just if you want to reach out to him and say, hey, love the show. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? We'll send you out some free stuff. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
Doing all right. Now, we're going to talk about terminology. I love this section because in the beginning of the podcast, when we were fresh and new, remember that, Mike? Season
Fresh
1.
and new, fresh and new. Yeah, I don't remember fresh and new anymore.
Right out of the box, season 1, episode 1, I had all these questions because you were just bouncing all this terminology off me, and me being the simpleton, not knowing anything about horses. You were saying, you know, and the coffin bone slips near the hip static joint, which flies around to the flexor
I was just
tendon.
throwing big words at you, so maybe you thought I knew something.
Right. And I'm sitting there going, oh, and all these words are bouncing around my head like lottery balls. And I'm like going, I have no idea what you're talking about. Now, I believe it was your wife's idea for the talking terminology. I'm going to give her credit if it was. It was your wife's.
Yes.
Okay, it was her. And good for her. Because now we start defining all the words that we've been using in the last 3 seasons or so. So this one, we have 2 words for you this week. It's called deep digital flexor tendon, or DDFT, and also coffin bone. So give me the definition of the first one, DDFT.
The deep digital flexor tendon is the tendon that comes down in this.
Oh, you want to switch videos now? All right,
Sure.
So here's a great time if you're going to see part of this cross section. We're going to dive a lot into this. So here we go.
Okay.
There you go.
On the DDFT.
Don't move the black thing around. Just keep it where it's at, or you come off camera. There you go.
Okay. If you see on this one, they didn't come color coded.
Uh-oh.
But the big yellow tendon that comes down the back of the leg, and I couldn't draw on it. Comes down and wraps around your navicular bone and ties into the coffin bone. This is the coffin bone on the cross section.
It looks like a tooth.
Well, when you cross section it, it does look a bit like a tooth.
Okay.
But that goes up and attaches the flexor muscle that is above the knee.
Okay, so that's a flexor tendon. A major tendon of the horse's leg that runs down the back of the leg using navicular bone as a pulley and inserts into the semilunar crest of the coffin bone. Okay.
Okay. This is the semilunar crest of the coffin bone. This is where it would attach. And this is an actual coffin bone. And the lamini is down the front. Down here, let's cover down the front of the coffin bone, runs between the coffin bone itself and attaches to the inside of the hoof wall. And that's what we start losing connection on these laminitic horses. So this, well, that one doesn't truly fit in there.
But that's where it goes.
Well, that's where it goes, yes. But basically, there's a coffin bone inside of a hoof. This is not the one that fits this hoof. But
just shows you how the hip bone's connected to the knee bone.
Connected to the knee bone and, yeah, all that stuff. But this is an actual coffin bone. These are a couple of different ones that I've gotten from different cases. If you notice, there's some perimeter rim damage on this one. Mm-hmm. And that is, out of a laminitic horse. And, from the damage, the coffin bone can start crumbling away and eroding away on a laminitic horse.
Now, how did it get the term coffin bone? Because, a lot of times the bones in your body get names from different things. So what would give you the name? How did it get the name coffin bone?
Well, it's almost like being inside of a coffin with it inside the hoof capsule.
Okay.
Is what I was told.
Okay.
It's like in the coffin.
Well, that makes sense. Now, the definition of a coffin bone is located in the hoof. It contains the nerves and blood vessels which form the foot sensitivity structures, which cushions the area between the bone and the hoof. The coffin bone is also referred to as the third phalanx.
Phalanx, I think it is.
Yep.
P3.
Yep, P3. And a pedal bone as well. So if you've heard that term, pedal bone as well, it's same thing as a coffin bone.
It's like what I was talking about, damage on the coffin bone. If you took x-rays, some of this would be thinning out. You'd have a condition called pedalostitis. Mm-hmm. if I'm saying it correctly, where you're thinning out the bone and then you start to erode away. And so, yeah, that's just a few things that we do deal with when we get horses through the vet clinic on a regular basis. And so there you go.
All right. Now that we know the terminology, we're going to dive into all the different things that Mike has here on the table as he's banging on the table as well. The cross-section of the stuff. I'm going to ask you about how all this came to be and how you got access to all these different horse parts. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the 2017 American Venting Championship Farrier. And don't forget, for our podcast we have a matching video. You can see me waving to Mike waving to me as well. Go over to YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. I respond to all the comments that everyone posts up on the... You're pulling on something here, Mike. Your feet down below.
Yes.
You're pulling on something. You're good.
Okay.
Mike's got all these cables. He's not allowed to move around at all. I always respond to any comments and stuff that are posted on the YouTube channel. And then if I have any questions, I'll send it over to Mike, and Mike will respond to you to all the comments that are on the YouTube channel as well. And don't forget, he also has a Facebook page. Make sure you like, subscribe to him over there. That is Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on Facebook. And you can see all these different articles that Mike posts up there. And a lot of good reads and a lot of good educationing material that he posts as well. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah. You had your physical this morning. Doctor says you're in tip-top shape.
I'm in A shape, yes.
Did he did he give you he tell you to watch your mouth sometimes? Were you too much cursing or anything? No, you're
No, I didn't say anything about that. Yeah.
Did he say anything about your attitude? You know, you gotta
Well, yeah, a little bit.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Now, speaking of throwing it out there, Mike, what do you have on the table here? Now, these are actual parts from a horse.
These are parts.
Now
That's a cross-section of a relatively normal leg.
Now, lay it down here.
Lay it down there.
So that is, I felt the hair on the back of it. So that's a cross-section of a horse's leg. And it's a real horse's leg.
Right.
What keeps that from rotting?
The legs are freeze-dried.
Now, you've got another one over there as well.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So it's freeze-dried. So that's the actual skin. That's the actual fur.
Actual bone, actual tendons, actual ligaments, actual digital cushion, actual hoof wall. Yes.
And so it looks like there's a joint here. Hold on, because I'm bringing my pen into the picture. So there's a joint. This is the coffin bone.
Right.
There's a joint here, and a joint here.
Right.
It looks like a snake segment all the way up that leg.
Well, it's kind of like you're standing on the tip of your finger.
Yes.
It's your fingernail, this tip of your finger, and this would be the first little joint in your finger, second little joint in your finger, and then this would be your knuckle. And that's kind of how you look at it when you're doing an anatomy test. But this would be your coffin bone, short pastern, long pastern, your cannon bone, and sesamoids, and your navicular bone.
That's interesting. What's the other one over there? Are you going to get into that, or you want to still talk about that one there?
Well, yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Okay.
We are going to get into this one, and part of the reason I picked this one up this morning is because we're rehashing the laminitis thing again.
Okay, yeah. Explain the laminitis and actually where it is on that horse or on that leg there.
Okay. The lamina is right here in the front of the coffin bone. As we were talking about, it would run around inside the hoof capsule. Connects, if you feel that that's where you get your Velcro attachment between there. And can you feel that?
Yeah, it's like...
It's ridged almost.
Yes.
Well, the lamina interlaces with that. It's like the little kind of like...
finger cuffs.
Like finger cuffs, yes. And when you pull on it, it gets like a Japanese finger.
Uh-huh.
And it constricts. And that's what's happening when you get the mechanical pressures with a laminitic horse.
So as it pulls, it kind of locks a little bit more.
It locks a little more and it squeezes. And then it chokes down on blood flow, and then you start losing lamina. And the other thing you start losing is sulcorium. The sulcorium is underneath the coffin bone, between the coffin bone and the hoof, the inside of the hoof. This is the inside part of the frog, and then the sulcorium would be here, and that would be between the coffin bone and the hoof itself. And if you start torquing, putting pressure against the sulcorium, and you start compressing it, you don't get blood flow in there, and that's where laminitic horses will get in a lot of trouble because of losing depth, the sole depth. When they start quit growing sole, they quit. You know that they. It's not all that the coffin bone is forcing its way through, but they quit growing sole, and as the outer part starts coming apart, in time it thins down, and it's much easier to penetrate.
Now, using the terminology that we had last week, is that material between the coffin bone and the hoof wall sensitive or insensitive?
That is a sensitive material.
Okay.
It's a vascular material. It's a very vascular material. It does have nerves. It does have blood flow. And, you know, in a healthy horse, about 15 millimeters of sulcorium and hoof wall is a good place to be. There's a lot of them out there. When you start measuring that distance between the coffin bone and the outer part of your sole, you don't necessarily have that much.
That seems so small. That's such a minute area to be...
To bounce 1,000 pounds plus around on,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
It's not a lot, but there are plenty of horses I work on with 5, 6, 7 millimeters, 8 millimeters of sole depth, and more of them than you would want to believe. And they're out there working and pounding the ground and everything else. And we're trying to keep that foot healthy so the horse can stay sound.
All right, we're going to take a short little break. And Mike, are you going to bring up that other?
We're going to bring up that other one.
Okay.
We're going to roll into that as opposed to...
What is the other one called, so I can let everyone know that we're going to...
This is another cross-section, and it's a laminitic leg.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a cross-section of a laminitic horse's foot when we come back. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. You okay?
Yeah.
Take all the other coffin bones and stuff. I almost need to get you a rubber mat when you bring stuff like that in, because you can hear that on the microphone.
Okay.
I want you to put those side by side when we come back, so you can see them. Let me give you a good camera shot so you can get them lined up. There you go.
Okay.
You see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Move this up here out of your way. Okay. Coming back. Coming in hot.
Coming in hot, yep.
So we're going to talk about this, take another break, and then wrap up the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's plenty.
All right. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He is now a licensed thoroughbred farrier through the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. And if you'd like Mike Stine to come out and perform a clinic at your location, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics. He can fill out that little form there, and he will schedule you in to come out to your location or your event and give you a clinic based on the stuff that we talk about here on Equine Dynamics. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now, you've got two cross sections that are of actual horses' legs that have
Yes.
been freeze-dried. They're preserved. How long have you had these two,
Well,
these models?
This one I bought back in January at the Hoof Care Summit.
Okay.
And this one I bought 30 some odd years ago.
Okay. So
At
third, and they
Probably the Blue Glass Laminitis Symposium, I would think.
and they look like it's amazing that they can freeze dry that anyway. So now you've got
Like your coffee.
exactly. So the one on the right hand side, if you're looking at the screen, that's a perfectly good healthy leg.
That's a healthy hoof, healthy leg.
The one on the left hand side looks like the ribeye steak I had the other night.
How do you like your ribeye steaks?
Medium rare, if not rare.
Yeah.
So tell me what's the difference between the two.
This, like I say, we've been looking at this one. This is a relatively healthy, it's a very healthy looking hoof and leg. These horses for assorted reasons had been, then their lives had come for some reason or another. I'm sure on the second one why they decided that it was time for this horse to go. This one, I don't know, have any history or anything. All I know is this is what they had at the marketplace when we went, and that's the one I bought.
Now, looking at that horse's leg, is it like a tree where you count the rings? Can you tell how old that horse was?
Judging from a few things with the growth patterns and all that.
Yeah, flip this other side over. I want to see it. There you go.
Thinking this was probably a relatively young horse. My guess is probably a thoroughbred, probably something relatively young, as far as the way the hoof growth pattern is. And, this is probably the original hoof, the very last part of the original hoof going down, we would think. Could be wrong on that. Could have been something going on with that. But if you look at how tight everything is in the space of your lamini, everything's nice and tight and snug, and it's not stretched out. And as horses go through any inflammation bouts, that little distance in there can get wider, and with aging, the aging process and everything else. So this is pretty tight. So it's probably a pretty young horse as far as this laminar spacing.
I'm just trying my laser pen here to see how well it works. Just so.
Does it make you feel better?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I watch back the video, the monitor up there is not the very best. So there you go. Yeah, all in here.
You move it, I'll chase it.
Okay. There you go. All right, so what's the other one that you have there?
This other one is a horse that it was obviously, okay, you got laminitis, which is inflammation of the lamina. Founder is when a ship starts foundering, it starts sinking, right?
Yes.
Okay, the coffin bone starts collapsing and sinking down, is foundering.
So I don't see, like on the original one there, that fingernail pointing to the ground type scenario on this cross section.
That's because this has eroded away. This has been a pretty ugly long-term case, probably. If you see, here is the coffin bone. This part is eroded off. The flexor tendon is driving mechanical pressure. And this is why when people call, and I've got a horse with laminitis, and you get the answer back from them, well, I just want to wait and see if it gets bad, and then we'll worry about it. When you get to this,
it's too late.
It's kind of late to do a lot. We can play around with trying to keep them comfortable, but as far as getting this back to this, you're not doing it.
You're never going to get back to that.
No.
Really? Okay.
No. And if you want to have a horse that's useful for years after the laminitis bout, it's kind of a smart idea to move here when you've got some pulse and the horse is just starting into it, instead of waiting before you've got mechanical damage. Once you start tearing, it just compounds and compounds and compounds. And even at that, this may have been a horse that had, he walked a little low last spring. He walked a little slow the spring before. When I get where I can talk, I'll tell you. And then each year there's a little bit of compounded damage. It may not have been one bout where it was all at one time, and a lot of time they're probably not, but we don't recognize it's laminitis until they go out and lay down on the ground, their feet are pounding. These little mini bouts, you're taking, during these little mini bouts, you're taking out little bits of this laminar connection. And over time, it gets weak, and then all of a sudden one day you get a bout, and it's like, oh my God, it just happened. Well, it's been happening all along. You just didn't get what was going on.
So I have a question. I don't know if I dreamt this or not, because this is all I think about is this show and
the only thing ever.
Ever. Yes. I believe my wife says if you hold the horse's foot, if it's hot, is that a warning sign that something's going on, like physical, like if you have a temperature or a fever, you get hot.
Or the horse has been standing on asphalt.
Okay, so it could be either or.
No, I had somebody that was demonstrating this was 20-some-odd years ago. They were demonstrating thermographic camera.
Yes.
And the horse was walked inside and took a picture of it. It's like, oh, my God, the horse foundered in all 4 feet. The horse been standing outside on the asphalt before they brought him into the shop. And it was about 80 degrees, and it was new blacktop. And about 45 minutes, an hour later, the feet weren't burning up hot with the camera.
Now, you also said, you made a statement about owners will go, no, let's see if it'll work itself out type deal. Us as humans, because again, back to being sick, and you've had a physical this week. If you got sick, you get a little scratch. I got a little scratch in my throat. First thing your spouse would say, well, go see the doctor. No. I'm just going to let it go through. Yeah, I'm going to let it go through and work its course out. This, you cannot wait for it to work its course out, because outside of shooting x-rays, for example, the misread on the hot horse's feet. Well, if I was to shoot those after it came inside, you're like, oh my God, my horse is foundering, like you said.
Well, the deal of it is on your first x-rays, hopefully you're shooting an x-ray when it still looks like this.
Yes, exactly.
But it's symptomatic, and you go ahead and you get mechanics and support structures in place so that the bone doesn't start moving. Once it starts moving, you're behind the 8-ball, and you're chasing it. And each time it moves, you rip, and you get more abscessing and more damage, and boom, boom, boom down the line. Hopefully we can stabilize it in time before down the road it ends up something heading in this direction. And, sometimes on horses that have been long-term slow, really slow, some of your metabolic horses, and this has been going on for years to get here, some of these horses will walk around for a good while because they've got so much nerve damage they can't feel their feet anymore. It's like neuropathy. When they get like this, if they're happy on their feet, neuropathy is your friend, because at least they're not feeling it.
Right.
It's not an ideal situation.
And this horse right here would not be a current working horse if it was in this situation.
This horse in this situation would probably not be a current living horse.
Oh, really? That is a worst case scenario.
There are horses out there that have feet like this that are living. And
living well, not well.
They're alive and they're breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And if they've got enough neuropathy and circulation's bad enough, they might not be able to feel that much pain out of their feet, and they'll still get up and get around on them. It's usually not pretty.
And the worst thing, because my mother had diabetes and she had neuropathy in her feet, is if that horse stubs its toe or rips it in a fence, it would never know. It would never know. And my mom's done the same thing where
So it's slowly coming apart. And, well, he's okay. He went to his feed dish, and he waddled back out, and he got some water, and he went and got some hay and whatever, and he just lays down a lot. And but at this point, as far as really fixing it, you're not. Can we still maybe slow down damage a little bit? Maybe, yeah. Can we do something to make the horse more comfortable? And then we got to start, okay, what is a reasonable quality of life, and what can you live with? Because we got to make that decision sometimes.
Is there any boots or anything that you can put on the bottom of the horse, kind of like if I sprain my foot, those Velcro boots that you see people walk around on,
There are, and different ones work to different degrees. There's a lot of things coming out there. Some of them are kind of a strap-on cushy pad, which can be a little deceiving, because if you put the soft thing between them and the ground, it doesn't really support it. They start walking on it. They're better. Then boom, it collapses. But you need to do something to take the mechanical pressure off of this deep flexor. You need to do something to support. You need to do something to reduce leverage. You need to, I'll just flat tell you, my first go-to is to go to like a Red and Ultimate boot, honestly. Now, there are other things out there. There are other things I've done. Clogs built out of plywood. You can cut it out. You can attach it to a foot. There are times, I've got some pictures of one, we'll do that in the next week or two, of a huge draft horse that I got over to, and we had some I think it was cabinet, some cabinet top, but that's what what was around, and this thing had a foot that was about as big as a Frisbee. And I'm looking in the truck, and it's like, well, we got to do something to get this guy kind of comfortable. So we started hacking and cutting and came up with something. He had no hoof wall, but we'll throw that in the mix for next week, because that was a quick, fast thing to do, and it's with what we had on the premises.
All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we'll do a short little segment and wrap up the show. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. I forgot what I was going to say. Hold on.
I hate when that happens.
Delete. I had like 15 things, and all of a sudden they just ran out my mouth at the same time. I was like, what am I saying? Oh, okay. Let's say this. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. Don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well over on YouTube. Make sure you go over there, like, subscribe, comment, give us a thumbs up, do all other stuff, all the fancy stuff that all the other influencers say, smash the bell, all that. We just want you to see the podcast, and Mike's got all this valuable information and also the cross section of these hoofs from this week's show. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
All right, I'm doing well. So this week, talking terminology, the definition of a deep digital flexor tendon, and also the definition of a coffin bone. So deep dish. I'm thinking pizza.
Deep dish pizza tendon.
Right.
So the deep digital flexor comes down the back of the leg.
Okay.
And comes in and attaches to the bottom of the coffin bone, which is inside the hoof capsule. And when a horse is galloping and pulling, when it comes to that toe and they pull through, that's what's creating the force to pull that toe through.
And the coffin bone, you've got a couple coffin bones over there?
The coffin bone itself is kind of dictates the shape of the foot. This is probably a hand pattern coffin bone. And we had grabbed a foot because this one probably is not this foot from the shape of the foot, but it will go in and set into place. And then, of course, that shows you how it kind of fits in there. And then we also talked about sulcorium and the lamini.
Now, and these two cross sections.
This way, you can see the big ugly hand in there. The sulcorium would be here, the lamini would be here.
And the two cross sections that you have here on display.
Yep.
You have a perfectly healthy, good leg there, cross section.
The perfectly healthy is a little,
loose termed.
Yeah, it's been freeze dried. So, what is the health of the horse at that point?
Right.
Come on, let's think about it. So we got one that, as far as the hoof and leg, is in pretty good shape. Don't know what the end of life was for this horse. And then we got
my ribeye steak from
last night. And this thing's kind of a rotten old foot. You got your separation up here. Everything's kind of blowing out of it where the coronary band is crushed and compressed.
Can you tell how old that horse might have been with the damage and everything?
I'm going to guess this is an adult horse. I'm going to guess it had a little age on him probably, but realistically, no, not really.
Can you tell how long that has been going on by the positioning of those bones?
By the fact that we have eroded a lot of the coffin bone off and some of the damage in here, and you can see where this is cramming itself into the sulcorium. And if this was a full coffin bone, it would probably be out the bottom pretty much right now. Mm-hmm. But it's eroded away. If it was immediate force, it would have shoved down and shoved through. But this just slow pressure against it erodes away, and continues to collapse down. So this has been going on long-term, slow. You can see the different where this is crushed behind the coronary band.
So over 5-10 years.
And I'm sure this coronary band was oozing and all that sort of deal.
Ooh, so like over 5 or 10 years.
Maybe, possibly.
Shorter or longer, do you think?
Let's flip a coin.
Okay.
I can't really tell you.
Okay. All right, guys.
I wasn't there when it started.
All right, guys, make sure if you like Mike Stine to come out and do a physical clinic at your location. He's got a whole setup. He's got, is it Dolly?
Dolly.
Dolly is a full size horse without the rib cage. Mm-hmm. And he can come out and show you all these different parts at your location or event. Feel free to contact Mike by going to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics. Fill that out. Make sure you follow him on Facebook as well, Equine Dynamics Mike Stine, and follow us on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up and all that stuff that to show us that you're out there listening. I don't know.
Yeah, if you have signs, call your vet.
Yes.
It's always good to have some x-rays periodically on a horse for a baseline, because when you come up, we got a problem and you shoot x-rays, did it happen immediately then, or is this something that's going on long term? Do we have a baseline to judge it off of?
So don't wait.
Right. Don't wait. And
it's not going to go away. Not like that little scratchy throat that you get.
It's
not
sometimes for performance reasons, on my better performance horse, about once a year, shooting x-rays just to check where we are mechanically is not a bad thing. And I find out things that I did not know from the external part of the hoof on our performance horses as well. So if somebody says, should I get x-rays? I'm going to tell you yes.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. On behalf of Mike Stine over there.
Have a good day, Travis. Have a good day with your horses. Beautiful weather out there today, and let's go play with a horse.
My name is Travis saying see you next week. Good job.
You think?
I do want to take some pictures with you to put the microphone back in front of you, and then we'll take some pictures. That way you can have them you can put them on your Facebook page.
There's something with a headset on.
Yeah, make it look somewhat official.